Hi, I'm Suzanne Giesemann, and in my work as an evidential medium, I connect with those who have passed to the other side. But recently I had the opportunity to connect with the soul of a man who was in the process of transitioning. My client's name was Cheryl, and she wanted to hear from her partner who had passed. So we were both surprised when we heard from a man who gave me the name Jim. He told me he had cancer and was in hospice. He showed himself to me as very, very funny, a real jokester. In fact, he said, "I'm not ready to be pushing up daisies yet." Cheryl confirmed that her Uncle Jim was in hospice, passing from cancer, and that he was known to be Robin Williams funny. Well, I asked Jim for more evidence that I was in fact talking to his soul. And he told me that his wife and two of his kids were there in hospice with him. Cheryl confirmed this, and then he gave me the name of his son and the name of his grandson, so I knew I was connecting with him. I asked him why he was coming through in this reading, and he said that he wanted his wife and his family to know that he was okay with this process. Wow. Well, then he showed me something funny. He put the image in my mind's eye of this. This is a little fake rattlesnake I have that has another whole story behind it. But he said there's a story about me and a rattlesnake and shotguns. Cheryl didn't know anything about this, and I thought, well, this is cool. Because until this point, people might have thought that I was only reading her energy field because she clearly was concerned about her Uncle Jim who was transitioning. Other evidence that he gave me included the fact that his work involved working under the hood of cars and trucks. And in fact, Cheryl confirmed that Uncle Jim had a truck repair business. So I said, you know, that piece about the rattlesnake is going to be what allows us to prove that you really can communicate with the soul, no matter what state the body is in. As we moved on to talk to Cheryl's partner on the other side, I also clearly heard the name Paul. So after the reading was over, Cheryl went to Jim's wife and said, is there some story about a rattlesnake and shooting it related to Uncle Jim? Jim's wife knew nothing about this. Meanwhile, a couple days later, Jim did pass. And when he did, Cheryl felt his presence. She felt this great heart opening, felt a whoosh of energy, and less than a minute later, the phone rang to let her know that Jim had transitioned. So, spurred on to know more about his soul, she suddenly remembered, wait a minute, the Paul he mentioned, that's his brother, Uncle Paul. So Cheryl got in contact with Uncle Paul and said, is there some story about a rattlesnake and a gun that you would know related to Jim? And Paul started laughing and he said, boy, is there ever. When we were kids, Jim and me and our brother Larry went out with our shotguns. We were going to shoot prairie dogs. And they came upon this prairie dog hole, and she said that Paul told her there was 3 feet of a rattlesnake tail sticking out of that hole. And believe it or not, those young boys drew straws to see which one was going to pull the rattlesnake out of the hole by the tail. My first thought was, and why wouldn't they just leave it there? But it made for a great story because indeed brother Larry got the short straw and ended up grabbing that snake by the tail, running backwards, flung it in the air, and the other 2 boys shot the snake. Luckily, they didn't shoot Larry. Well, when he finished telling that story, Uncle Paul said to Cheryl, you know, there's not another living soul alive who knows that story because it happened so many years ago, they just forgot to tell it over the years. And this shows the brilliance of Jim's soul. He chose one incredibly memorable story that only one person on this earth would know to let all of us know that, yes, indeed, I wasn't just talking or reading Cheryl's memories or her energy field. I was talking with the soul of a man whose physical eyes may not ever open again, but he came with this one final message that I've saved to the end to share with all of you. And that is, he said, my physical body may appear to be suffering, but I'm fine. What a message to hear. I remember being with my dad when he took his last breath in hospice. And I remember calling the nurse in and saying, you know, it looks like he's suffering. So comforting to hear Jim's words. I'm okay with this process. My body may appear to be suffering, but the soul is fine. May these words and this story bring you comfort as you hear them. Many blessings.